The myth of Inanna's descent into the netherworld is not merely a story of death and rebirth, nor is it simply an early theological narrative about rival goddesses. When examined through an esoteric and metaphysical lens, it reveals itself as a solar myth, encoded in phonic language, a cosmological map that mirrors the daily, seasonal, and initiatory path of the sun itself, Inanna and Ereshkigal. Though presented as sisters and opposites, function together as a single, yet unified mechanism, the light and dark phases of the same celestial intelligence. Their synchronicity reflects the eternal law that ascent and descent are not separate journeys, but alternating movements of the same force. And without further ado, the lesson titled Queen of Heaven. Let's begin. In ancient cosmology, the sun is not merely a physical body, but a conscious principle. It rises, reaches sovereignty at noon, descends, dies at dusk, travels through the underworld at night, and is reborn at dawn. This solar cycle is the backbone of initiation myths across civilization. Inanna, Queen of Heaven, embodies the sun in its zenith state, radiant, authoritative, crowned, and adorned. Ereshkigal embodies the sun's nocturnal phase, the hidden sun, the invisible ruler of the depths. The same light operating without illumination. One governs the visible world, the other governs what remains when visibility collapses. The myth begins with Inanna setting her mind from great above towards the great below. This movement mirrors the sun's turn after its highest point. Esoterically, noon is not triumph, it is the beginning of descent. Power peaks only to reveal its impermanence. When Inanna abandons heaven and earth, she is fleeing responsibility. She is obeying a cosmic rhythm, like the sun that must descend once it has risen. Inanna follows a law older than morality. What rises must eventually pass through darkness. Before her descent, Inanna adorns herself with her queenly garments and divine insignia. These items are not decorative, they are solar attributes. The crown represents sovereignty and centralized authority. The rod of lapis lazuli signifies command, order, and divine law, akin to the sun's regulating function over time and seasons. The lapis stones of her neck symbolize identity and voice, the captivity to name and define reality. The breast ornaments represent relational power, attraction, and fertility. The gold ring signifies covenant, continuity, and agency. The breastplate represents protection and invincibility. Together, these items constitute the full solar identity, the self as ruler of the visible world. Her destination is the temple of the netherworld, constructed of lapis lazuli. Temples and esoteric symbolism are not buildings, but stones of alignment. A temple marks the intersection of the worlds. This is not like the horizon at sunset, where day and night touch. Entering a temple is entering a threshold where ordinary rules are no longer applied. The netherworld temple is therefore not evil, nor chaotic. It is lawful, ancient, and exacting. Darkness here is not disorder, it is precision without mercy. At the gate stands Neti, the chief gatekeeper. Gatekeepers in myth are embodiments of cosmic law. They do not judge intention, they enforce structure. Neti's questioning of Inanna, why the Queen of Heaven would come to the land of no return, echoes the moment when daylight reaches the horizon and must justify its descent into night. His role is not obstruction, but calibration. He ensures that no identity passes intact into the realm where identity has no jurisdiction. Neti reports to Ereshkigal, who orders the gates be opened according to custom. This detail is crucial. The netherworld does not improvise, it operates by decree. What follows is the passage through the seven gates, which correspond simultaneously to the seven planetary spheres, the seven stages of initiation, the seven phases of solar diminishment, and the systematic stripping of egotistical structure. At each gate, Inanna is relieved of an item. In each removal, she protests. only to be reminded not to question the rights of the netherworld. This refrain mirrors the human experience of loss during transformation. The descent does not explain itself, it simply proceeds. As the saying goes, gravity does not negotiate with the falling body. The first gate removes her crown. Solar sovereignty is the first illusion to fall. Authority does not survive descent. The second gate removes her rod, dissolving command and control. The third removes her necklace, silencing the voice that defies itself through name and status. The fourth strips her breast ornaments, severing the power of attraction and relational dominance. The fifth removes her ring, breaking covenant and her former identity. The sixth removes her breastplate, eliminating protection. And finally, at the seventh gate, all garments of ladyship are removed. The sun, now fully set, enters night completely naked. No light, no heat, no title. Naked, Inanna is brought before the throne of Ereshkigal. This moment corresponds to midnight, the deepest point of the solar journey. The sun is not visible, yet it has not ceased to exist. The Anunnaki, the judges of the underworld, fix on the eyes of her death. Their gaze represents objective reality, stripped of narrative. Their word is described as the word that torches the spirit because it removes all self-deception. At their decree, Inanna is turned into a corpse and hung from a stake. This is not punishment, it is the suspension. The sun is dead in the sky, yet active in the underworld. Lord Guglani, whose death provides the narrative excuse for Inanna's descent, functions symbolically as the collapsed masculine principle, often associated with the bull of heaven. The bull, in ancient symbology, represents fertility, force, and virility. His death signals the exhaustion of outward power. The solar queen must descend because the external structures that sustain her reign can no longer hold. In this sense, Guglani's death is not accidental. It is the cosmic signal that the cycle must turn inward. Ereshkigal, ruling during this phase, is not the enemy of light, but its steward in darkness. She governs gestation, not annihilation. The confrontation between the sisters is not the meeting of the sun with his own shadow. They are not opposite in conflict, but complements in function. Inanna rules the day world of form. Ereshkigal rules the night world of dissolution. Together, they ensure continuity. The revelation embedded in this myth is uncompromising. Transformation requires total surrender. The solar self must die to be reborn. One cannot carry daylight through midnight. Pride, virtue, beauty, and life itself must be relinquished. Only then can reintegration occur. When the cycle completes, the sun rises again, not as denial of night, but as its consequence. Inanna's eventually return is not the restoration of the old order, but the emergence of a self that has passed through its own depths. Light has survived darkness, now carries wisdom rather than arrogance. This is why the myth of Inanna endures. It is not a moral story, it is a cosmic instruction. It teaches that descent is not failure, darkness is not deviation, and death is not the end of the journey. The sun must pass through the underworld to remain the sun, and so much consciousness if it wishes to become whole.